strange for me to be in another position than it was previously, but I am again the biggest fan of this project, and I'm really happy that I can help again and provide more support in this field. So as you read, well, the description that my previous team put there was quite impressive. I am indeed a legal expert, and I started as a legal advisor and a lawyer. But after that, I just decided to move through the environmental side. And starting from the environmental side, I just got somehow into the investment and a lot of management and so on. So indeed, my perspective is a more broad than just simple contracts. But given the fact that in order to be part and actually to become a part of the environment, of the business environment, you definitely need to have the background, a general understanding of how the legal stuff is working and how things are going and how to read the law, how to make sure that you do everything by the law. And because basically the law is made in order, well, to protect you as well as protect others. So this is the moment that I'm gonna take to start and provide you a first guidance through the type of legal associations that you might use in order for your business to grow. And maybe this will be helpful in order for you to choose how you would like to represent your business in this field. So this is when I'll start sharing my screen. All right. So, given the fact that I'm also a surfer, I named it legal surfing, and I really hope that we'll make it also fun. It's a little bit difficult to make legal stuff fun, but I'll do my best. All right, so basically this is a general agenda. Let's set up some rules. So we will have two parts of the presentation. The first part is, you see, it's types of enterprises, and we'll discuss a lot of details regarding general enterprises, and then each type of enterprise in more depth. After that, we'll discuss the contracts and how things should be read or developed in a contract. It doesn't seem too much fun. I'll try to make it a little bit easier to access, a little bit better to understand. I'll also provide you with a whole list of links and supporting documents. And well, hopefully also in the mentoring sessions, in the private one, we'll just help you out with any questions that you will have. Feel free to ask questions whenever you feel like it will stop me just and ask the question exactly at that moment. Or if you want, we can have later on another, after the end of the first part and then the second part, a series of questions and answers. All right then. So for the part on enterprises, we'll discuss generally the basic classification of the enterprises. And again, we are talking about enterprises in Moldova. Although the general description fits in most cases the description of these types of enterprises anywhere in the world. Well, probably not as in North Korea or China, but in the European area, definitely that will be the case. Then we'll see the differentiation classification by size, by type of person, and you'll see in a moment why this is important. And it's not gender, definitely, but it's about natural or physical person and legal persons. So also we'll have a description of the natural person entitlement, then legal one, then registering your business, how can you do and what will you do in order to register your business. About licenses, a couple of words. The tax mechanism, which I suppose it's one of the questions, although it's not strictly legal, but it's definitely important and it's legalized in the law. So this is why I can provide you with this information. And also, how long does it take? Let's surf in. So this would be the first slide. And what I want you to see through this slide is the fact that we have the enterprises are of 4 specific sizes, and this is how they are devised in the legislation of Moldova. So we have micro, we have small, medium, and big. Now, the size is definitely the first criteria to be applied in case of the legislation is the number of employees. But if a number of employees will be, for example, from 1 to 9, the next criteria applied is the sale volume, the annual sale volume or turnover. So in case, if you are talking only about the number of employees, you can see that a micro enterprise will be from 1 to 9. Then the small one is considered the one from 10 to 49, a medium-sized 50 to 249, and then the big one 250 and more. But again, if the turnover is, and this is a critical element, if the turnover is has less than 3 million Moldovan lei, that would be a micro enterprise. If it's till the 25 million Moldovan lei, then it's a small one. By 50 million, it will be a medium size, and more than 50 million, that's a big size. Now, if you have a number of employees, let's say 20, but you have, which would be a small enterprise, right? But you'll have turnover, which will be about 49 millions. This enterprise will be considered medium. Now, this is a general understanding, and I suppose this is quite simple to get it. But let's see what is the total share, because generally speaking, the most companies are considered small or medium. So as you see, it's a 97.5%. And you have also the specific number of enterprises. This is the number for 2019. I would say that the probability is after the pandemics, the number to be less, but not the percentage. Now, the share in sales is for about 34.6%. The share in sales is a little bit less than that, but again, it's a huge number. It's a huge sale volume out of all the economic agents. And I didn't indicate it here, but most, about other 60% go to the big companies. So it's quite important how much a small and medium-sized enterprises still make in sales. And number of employees and jobs out of the total number of private sector employees, you have it as well here. So small and medium-sized enterprises occupy more than 57%. So these numbers should probably also guide you somehow on what are the areas that are mostly preferred in case of Moldovan enterprises and entrepreneurs. I suppose this would maybe be an area of questions later on, but we shall move on. All right, so you have, if you want to practice a business based on the civil code, you have 2 specific options on how to develop your business. You can have a business developed based on as a natural person or physical person, that would be the direct translation from Romanian, persoană fizică, or as a legal person, persoană juridică. Now, you all will get this presentation and you can access all the laws that you have here. But basically, you have the legal background in order to be checked if you decide to register any kind of business. Is the Civil Code of Republic of Moldova, Law on Entrepreneurship Enterprises, the Labor Code, of course, Law on Support for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. Now, there is the Law on the Entrepreneurial Patent. Then is the specific law on each of the legal person entities that are formed So it would be the joint stock company, the limited liability company, as well as for the natural person enterprises, starting with the entrepreneurial household or farm household, and also the registration of legal person and individual enterprises. But this is something that we'll talk a lot. So I'll provide you with the general description of all of it, and then don't hesitate to ask questions. It's only now that I realize how difficult it is for speakers to actually continuously speaking with themselves, basically, and looking at the screen without any reaction out of it. It's much easier, by the way, when it's a physical discussion. But let's move on. So here we are discussing about the natural person. So if you don't want to have a legal person registered, you have three specific options. And it's being an individual entrepreneurship, which also I put the specific Romanian translation in brackets in order for you to make sure you don't mix up. As for legal aspects, notions, specific terminology is very important when using. And please remember that this will be very important as well for your contracts. So be sure to use the proper name, the proper attributes, proper notions, and so on. So here we have the individual entrepreneurship, which in Romanian would be întreprindere individuală. I suppose you've heard about this several times. Usually it's one single person who represents themselves. And we'll talk in more detail a little bit further on. Then we have the farming household, which is gospodărie țărănească, and it's a very specific type of association or enterprise, and also the entrepreneurial patent, patenta de întreprinzător. So these three aspects, these three forms of entrepreneurship can be performed and registered as part of the natural person activity. Not legal person, but natural person. It comes again with a series of responsibilities, of course, but also it provides a series of benefits. But we'll see now further on in comparison. Now let's talk about the individual entrepreneurship. Please don't mind me. I really like this image, so I'm trying to bring more livelihood in this legal aspects, especially as this format of virtual presentation. All right, then. So you have the individual entrepreneurship. This is a natural person with full capacity who practices an entrepreneur in his own name and at his own risk, without being a legal entity, and is registered in the manner established by the law. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a specific law on registration by the state of the legal entities and the individual entrepreneurs. You'll have it as a link in the beginning of the presentation. Now, the individual entrepreneur is the enterprise that specifically belongs to one physical person, a citizen of Republic of Moldova, who has the right to have property, or it can actually be of his family members, and if they share a common property. Now, it should be noted that the patrimony of an individual entrepreneur, which is a very important aspect, is formed on the basis of assets that the citizen or his family have. And this is something that we'll consider as well as a disadvantage, because basically the founder, this individual entrepreneurship, is responsible for any kind of obligations with its own patrimony, which means that if he makes anything illegal or makes anything that will go, and he will have to pay with everything he owns, except for the goods that, according to the law, cannot be pursued, but still. Now, an entrepreneur owner of the individual enterprise, he has an unlimited liability for his obligations with his entire patrimony. This is something to really think about. I can give you a couple of examples of individual entrepreneurship that can be applied. And this is usually people that are providing consultancy, for example, or kind of expertise. And in this case, they just have these contracts that help them gain and share their experience. But at the same time, they receive their money on the company as an individual entrepreneur. There are some tax benefits, but these are, well, I would say that these probably are considered the most beneficial and the best criteria to develop actually an individual entrepreneurship. But it does not really provide you with the capacity to grow too much in the business. So the advantage is that there is no minimum initial capital required, and there are no restrictions on the asset that can be classified as basis of the business. So there are no requirements for the formation of a reserve capital as it would be in other cases. The administration of this kind of individual entrepreneurship is much simpler because basically it's one single person and there is no bureaucracy. Now, as a legal form, it is suitable for family business, agriculture, crafts, education, and as I told you, a consultancy as well. But well, I consider it as more part of as education. Now, do you have any questions? Because I do suppose that some of you have might have thought about opening an individual entrepreneurship, especially given the fact that most of you have developed your ideas into smaller businesses that are mostly a family-owned one. No questions? Okay.
Salut.
We have to speak English.
Yes, I have a question at this point. Thank you very much. I really think on the doubt about the legal to legalize my business right now. And as you said, that it's one owner, I mean, property of one person, physical person. If I'm making crafts like furniture or handmade or something, it's enough. But if I will want to have a salesperson or copywriter or other person to work for me, it's impossible.
Well, as a matter of fact, it is, because it will not be too advantageous to have contracts made with other people in this respect. You cannot really register more than actually your family. And it's not really something, especially if you want to grow the business and start exporting. If it's not a family business, it's a little bit more difficult. But if it's still family business, you can work it out as with smaller contracts. But again, it depends very much. Also, if you remember the first table, there were the sizes. So if you're into a micro and you will stay as a micro, this is something that you can consider, of course, because the taxes paid are less. And also there is a possibility to, well, you'll have to register another company if you want to go to another level.
I understand, because if I want to have a working contract with some salesperson or marketing person and so on, it will be impossible for me to do it.
No, it's actually very much possible, but it will be a contract between two physical persons, not one that would advantage you as a legal person with a.
But this kind of company, it's okay only for sales. I mean, if I'm handmaking something and I want to sell, and that's okay for me.
Not necessarily only for sales. It's something. It's more about how many people will work and how big the company will grow. Because if you, for example, will get to another level of turnover, the state might require additional taxes from you, which will not be already in your interest.
Okay, thank you very much. At the moment, I don't have any questions.
Okay, I can see that in the chat, if there is a question, if you don't have any property, well, you provide, and there are a list of requirements that you can find specifically when you register. So it depends very much. You will have to provide some property as background for you and individual entrepreneurship, but it's not a huge one. So basically, it's not a minimum capital. You just, it's very possible that in time, for example, you will have some property and then it will go as part of this individual entrepreneurship. This is something that you can consider, because you can open an individual entrepreneurship in Moldova. As you see in the advantages, there is no minimum initial capital needed. But after that, when you have already a property, that might become a liability. Let me know if I've answered the question. And there is another, okay. So Diana just mentioned that she has already an LTD, so it's too late to decide. Well, an LTD is not bad at all. I mean, you will see that. We'll talk a little bit later about the LTDs. So you'll see your advantages there. All right then. Any more questions? No. Okay. Shall we move further? Okay, wait. Okay. The entrepreneurial patent. Now, as you see from the images that I have placed here, mostly it's about something that is very unique for you. Or is something that you will provide as a service based on a specific talent that you have. There is a list of patents, and you can find it as well in the law that I have placed in the beginning of this. Will not go through all the description of the patents, but this is something that you can actually use depending on the level, on the how big the business you intend to have. All right, so let's talk about the entrepreneurial patent. Now, this is a state certificate. Now, it indicates the type of activity that you are allowed to carry, and specifically in a specific, usually it's a yearly patent, and depending on the type of activity that you will be performing, you will have a specific amount of payment, but this is all you pay. So basically, that's one of the biggest advantages that you have, is to actually pay once a year this patent amount, and then you can ask for all the, well, you can do whatever you want. For example, let's see, a patent in sewing, for example. So you are paying once a year the patent for sewing costumes, dresses, anything. And then you can work with as many clients as you want, because you have the patent, and you just take the specific amount of money. Now, in order to have a patent, you have to apply for it. And if you receive it, then you will have to extend it by request every year. The application is submitted to the Fiscal Inspectorate, which is, again, something that is usually a little bit bureaucratic, but don't be afraid, because now we have this one-stop shop and they work quite fast. Now, as you may see, I've put here all the details about the patent. So it's about 3 days from the date of filling the application and completed documents, as well as after the payment of the established patent fee. Sure, I will give you. It will be much easier for me, because I'm, so you understand, I have the presentation full screen. And in order to answer the chat, I have to just stop and start looking in the chat. You can just start speaking. It's a little bit easier. So the question is about taxes and medical insurance. Let me go by the end of this slide, and then we will share a couple of ideas about taxes and medical insurance. All right. Okay. Usually you will apply to the local fiscal inspectorate. They have specific offices there that are devoted specifically to patent people. And again, the term is not so long, it's about 3 days. You can actually access the law and see exactly what kind of patent. And also you can see, by the way, because the current fiscal inspectorate is actually also part of this sorry, had to admit someone is also part of the general one-stop shop system. So you can also find the information online, including about the prices and so on for each type of the patent. But again, you have the law and you have the online application and prices and so on. So you will not be able to have 2 patents. This is something that you also will need to know. You can have 1 patent for a specific type of activity carried out in a specific place. All right. Now, carrying out the entrepreneurial activity based on the patent does not require a state registration of its holder and the receipt of the license. So this is a big difference, which you also should take into consideration. A patent is not a license. This is important because these 2 notions are different. So the patent holder does not extend the requirements regarding the representation of financial and statistical reports, the keeping of accounting of financial records, the performance of cash operations and settlements. Now, this is the best benefit that this patent is actually offering. Many people are working based on the patent. So you also have agricultural workers that are providing specific activities in this field, craftsmen and women. So but the list of activities is not so long. Now, in order for the person not to pay a state social insurance contribution, and this is something that was in the questions, being a patent holder, he or she must have an official job from which all tax and social obligations are deducted according to the legislation in force. So in this case, a person concerned will pay only the monthly patent fee. When issuing a patent, he will or she will present certificates of employment within the company and the certificate paying individual social and medical funds. So just to make a general conclusion, including answering to the question in the chat. A person who has received a patent will not pay the insurance, the state social insurance contribution, medical funds, also individual social one, only if he already pays that while having an official job. Otherwise, he has the obligation to pay the general contribution and insurance, which will be around 23% of the total amount. Now, please let me know if you received and if you got the answer to what you asked.
Hi, Daniela. Thank you. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Just one more time to repeat what did you say? So as a patent, you will not pay, will not cover these social medical taxes. But if you don't have, if it's your only job or occupation.
So let me put it otherwise. If you have an official job where you already pay all the...
If you don't,
you are liable of paying yourself the medical funds and individual social insurance contribution.
Separately.
Meaning separately.
I mean, so the amount that you pay for the patent,
it does not include. No, it does not.
It
the
does not
amount
include.
for
Yes,
the,
separately. You should
yes,
pay.
I can actually can give you. Let me check if I can open now this. All right. So you don't have any other payments included in the entrepreneurial patent. All you pay is an amount. If I do remember, there is, for example, for crafts and so on, it's about 360 something lei per year.
Yeah, a small one.
Yes. And you work how much you want, you sell and so on. But again, you out of all the payments that you have, you pay your own medical and social insurance contribution.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yes,
so this is
your
own, yes, this is your own responsibility.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Again, you can see here is a link, so you'll find more information about the goods you can sell based on the entrepreneurial patent, as well as the terms of validity and other conditions that you will have to comply with in order to obtain the entrepreneurial patent. So let me know if you want to, if you think about this, as well as I understand we will have those personal meetings. Just let me know that you're interested specifically in the patent, and we'll have a specific discussion in more depth about this specific type of entrepreneurship. All right then, any other questions? No. All right, let's move on. So I will remind you that we are still speaking about entrepreneurship for a natural person, so pentru persoane fizice. And this is the third one, so the farming household. The farming household is the one that is an individual enterprise. It's based on a property, on agricultural lands and other goods, and personal work of family members. Usually, you can see here a specific, direct translation, peasant household. Gospodărie țărănească. This probably will be closer to what you're already hearing around. So the aim of a farming household is, of course, related to farming, and it's obtaining agricultural products, their primary processing, marketing, mainly their own agricultural production. You have a specific law that describes all the criteria you need to know about the individual entrepreneurship activity in agriculture and so on. I will not go into this law, as the law is really like step-by-step providing you exactly what you want. And as of my knowledge, there are not too many farming household tendencies in Queen at this moment. But you should know that a household can be constituted by a single natural person, by its family members, who bear unlimited joint and several liability for its obligation with all their patrimony, except for the goods which, according to the civil code, are not prosecuted. Now, it's similar with what you've heard for the individual entrepreneurship. So basically, the only differences between is the fact that in the farming household, you actually have to have an activity that is specifically related to agriculture or farming. Do you have any specific questions about this type of enterprise? Okay, now let's move on then. Yeah, I'm a fan of agriculture and especially environmental one, so I had to put this on. Now, let's talk about legal person enterprises. This is something that will take a little more time than you expect. Now, legal entities. you have here a list of legal entities that basically are part of the legal system and are described in more details by specific laws as well as the Civil Code of Republic of Moldova, and are mostly, as you saw in the table that was presented to you a little bit earlier, the most that develop an entrepreneurial activity as well as with the biggest turnover and the biggest number probably of employees. Now we have the limited liability company, which is Societate cu Răspundere Limitată, so or SRL, SRL. The joint stock company, Societate pe Acțiuni, SA. Partnership, Societate în nume colectiv. Limited partnership, Societate în comandită. Entrepreneurial cooperative, cooperativa de întreprinzători. Production cooperative, cooperativa de producție. Leasing company, întreprindere de arendă. Now, I have put the Romanian translation for each of these because it's very easy to confuse yourself with them. I'll provide you a little bit more description for the first two, but also you will talk a couple of words in order for you to understand the difference about the others. As you see, the most often used form of entrepreneurship is actually the for natural persons, the individual entrepreneurship, and for a legal person, the limited liability company. Okay, so the limited liability company. This is something that is really, really often found in the Republic of Moldova, as well as in many other countries, as the limited liability company is a company with a legal personality whose share capital is divided into shares according to the deed of incorporation and whose obligations are guaranteed by the company's assets. Now, this is just, I know it's confusing. I suppose it's confusing. It's usually it's confusing when there are so many notions, but what you need to hear here is the legal person has share capital divided into shares, not those shares, but whose obligations are guaranteed by the company's asset. So this legal company has a specific number of assets from the start, when it's developed, when it's registered, and the only responsibility that further on goes is based on these specific assets that the company has. No physical person will be responsible with the personal patrimony or something as it was before. And that's the biggest difference from the legal person and the natural person. So before that, again, we've heard that legal individual entrepreneurship, the farming households, they are responsible with their own patrimony. Anything they have except what the civil code does not apply to, right? And here we have a company who's basically has a specific number of assets with which she guarantees its activity and its debts. Now, the share of capital of the company consists of contributions of the associates and represents the minimal value of assets expressed in Moldovan lei that the company must hold. This is something that you will find already a very clear description in the law about the limited liability company. You again have the link in the beginning. The rights and obligations of the legal entity are exercised in its own name, independently of those person who founded it. So you can have 5 founders who definitely will come with contributions as part of the minimum value needed, and maybe they will increase the minimum value as well. They can do that, but the only responsibility and the only thing that can be used is that money that is set there as part of this minimum value of assets of the company, but not with anything that these people have on their own as their own patrimony. So the advantage of a limited liability company is that it has limited civil liability. The enterprise is liable for obligations only when its own patrimony, so the patrimony of the company and the partners, are not liable for any obligations of the enterprise. Now, the disadvantage is that the administration is quite formalized and complicated. Now, here we get to this bureaucratic part of, well, the life. The efficiency of administration depends on several factors, and it's a number of associates, share of each associate, and the share of capital, and so on. So that would be probably the biggest issue. But again, people find their way, and including family, they develop a limited liability company in order to develop a business. Now, in Republic of Moldova, a limited liability company can be registered in a working day, in a single working day, more precisely 24 hours from beginning of the working day, which follows after the submission of the files with all documents needed for registration. There is also available the emergency registration, which is 4 hours. Now, all this information is well, available on the website of, you can have it here. And you also see the current registration fees that are applied. I know that we already have Diana, who has a limited liability company, so she already knows that. But the prices are quite simple, and the registration as well is quite fast. You have a list of documents that you need to present to the one-stop shop, and you will wait for 24 hours and pay for the specific fee. And then if it's an emergency, then you can pay the 4,596 lei to have the company registered. Now, one of the issues with the limited liability company is the closing of the company. And that is quite a complicated aspect. The process of liquidating the company in Moldova is really, well, I would say it's a really difficult one. This is why there are quite a lot of companies, limited liability companies, who are nominally active, but in fact they are just frozen. So in order not to go through the whole bureaucratic crazy system, I actually did that about 10 years ago to close one of my limited liability companies. Well, people just froze them because it does not take too much, either time or effort. Now, the state registration chamber is the one that registers the LLC. But again, this is something that you can find, well, starting the 2014, the mandatory share capital was canceled. So it can now be established by a single founder. You can complete the registration on the spot, and you will have to state there the name, the specific name, and this is something that we'll discuss a little bit in just a while, the legal address, the name of identity cards of the founders, the administrator name, and at most 5 types of activity. So this is the basic of the registration. Now, the contract and the statute of incorporation for this specific entity is concluded and approved by its founders. Usually, it does not need to be signed already, just placed, provided. So until you register, you just have to decide what is the name of the company, who will be, and present yourself to the registration of, well, several variants of names. At this point, you can actually check on the web page and see exactly that the selected name is the one that is still available, because often people think they can register a name that they consider their own, but they're definitely someone else with a similar name or, well, practically identical name already registered. So this is how you got, it's similar with when you actually register, for example, in Facebook, and you want to have a specific name, like let's say Daniela, and I'm sorry, but Daniela is taken, and then you want to register again, let's say, okay, Daniela 85, and there is already someone with Daniela 85. Okay, let me put the real number, Daniela 79, still someone there. And like this, you get to Daniela M. The 34, 24, and all the P number, for example. Quite, well, distracting and disturbing activity, right? But this is where you can actually check the names of the company in order to make sure that what you have registered is unique and is yours. After submitting the registration file, you will have to open a bank account. Now, there is a list of banks who have the specific license, and it's usually available and updated on a monthly basis, if I'm not mistaken, on the website of the National Bank of Moldova. You don't need to put money in the company's account immediately. After completing the registration within 24 hours, you will have to register with the tax inspectorate. So you see that the steps basically that are quite simple. It's just if you know them, you can prepare for them. And especially now that we have this one-stop shop and the easiest way to register everything. Now, registration, opening a bank account, and making the stamp takes several days. The registration process ends with the registration at the state register, of course, after which the administrator of the limited liability company, of your limited liability company, and also the director will receive 4 specific things. So the decision of the state registration authority, the deeds of incorporation, an extract from the state register confirming the fact that you have been registered, and the stamp. Now we have also again a question. Okay, it's not a question. Dear ladies and gents, if you need to leave, don't leave a message. It's okay. You are free people. You don't have to announce that. Just make sure to be back. All right, then, let's get back to... So the company also received this a very specific identification number, the IDNO. You've definitely heard of it. There is something similar for each physical person. And this specific identification number is assigned to the legal entity and is unique, and also will be further on used as a fiscal code, which will make the payments of taxes and the insurances and so on, everything will be related and linked to the activity of the limited liability company that you are just opening. Now, the legal entity is considered registered on the day of the registration decision. So you do not consider your limited liability company as registered and legally opened until you have the specific decision of the state registration authority. Until then, you're just an aspiring limited liability enterprise. All right. Let me go back. Do you have any questions regarding the limited liability company? Talk to me. Just say, no, we don't have any questions. Am I talking to myself? Do you really ignore me like that? You really don't like me? Oh my God, nobody's talking to me. Really?
Sorry, we are not ignoring you. Just cannot speak right now.
Thank you for providing me with the sound. Thank you. I felt automatically not alone in this room world. And well, you don't hear it, but I have.
We are here. Yes, we are here. Just
Okay.
cannot unfortunately.
No
turn
worry.
on
Thank
the
you so much
camera.
for making a sound. It's helpful. Okay, thank you, Zarida, as well. Okay, let's move on. If you don't like me, then I will like you. Okay, the joint stock company. Well, don't mind the images, they are just beautiful. So, but we'll talk now about the joint stock company, which in Romanian sounds as societate pe acțiuni. This is something that you've heard definitely about bigger companies, right? So this is a company whose share capital is wholly divided into shares and whose obligations are guaranteed by the company assets. Now you have here also the link to the specific law that and the civil code who basically provides for all the requirements regarding this type of company. The joint stock company has a more extensive and less flexible structure than the limited liability company. Now, the capital of the joint stock company is divided into shares. And this is something that you've definitely heard because we have the stock market, we have, well, societate pe acțiuni, it already sounds like this, well, joint stock, right? And it can be founded by one or more natural or legal persons. In our country, most of the joint stock companies are actually founded by one or two natural person and one or two joint stock companies, so other joint stock companies as legal persons. People are doing this in order to make sure that their assets are not at risk, but they put at risk only the company's assets. And there are quite a lot of benefits in having that. A joint stock company of a closed type, so there you can have the open type, which means that anyone can become well, can buy a stock and become part of the company. That's an open joint stock company. And a closed one is when the stocks are sold specifically to a number of people who are in this council of coordination. Now, the closed type has a maximum of 50 shareholders. The shares can be purchased by a limited number of people. This is what I've been talking about. The open type offers the right to alienate shares unrestrictedly. So you can actually bring the whole world as part of your joint stock company. And by this, you can develop quite a capital of the company. Now, let's imagine that I am, let's say, a hypnotherapist who manages to convince 1 million people to buy each one of them one stock of for $1. In this case, I will have 1 million well, share. Now, how can I put it? Deținători de acțiuni, or members of this council, who will have each one of them one share of one number, but the capital of this joint stock company will be 1 million. Actually, I'm thinking now that this would be a good business, although I have to be a hypnotherapist to make people buy this stock, right? Now, as I mentioned, this type of companies are generally more available for larger enterprises, and you can find here as well the list of activities that most cases are preferred. So banking, for example, most of our banks, if you know, are societate pe acțiuni, so joint stock companies, which means that the members of the bank, for example, can be, including the state as a legal person, but it can be a couple of corporations who develop this bank, and they have a specific number of shares. And now, I'm sure that you have all watched some movies regarding the shares in companies, and it depends. And you already know that, for example, the one that has the most number of shares takes the decisions. It's quite similar with what's going on in our parliament. So if you have more than 51 shares, then you can take a proper decision. Now, as I was mentioned, the areas that the joint stock company can be found in is the banking, telecommunications, trade, insurance, furniture production. Now, anywhere you would see the SA in Moldova, you know that this is a joint stock company. Definitely one of the ideas that, as I mentioned, one of the benefits is to actually have the capital of the joint stock company higher and be basically this capital is the one with which a company is responsible in front of its people, of those who have the stocks, and also the state. Any questions? No questions. So I shall understand that you probably don't think about opening a joint stock company. Partnership. All right, so the partnership, societate în nume colectiv. You definitely haven't heard too much about it. A general partnership represents an enterprise founded by two and or more legal entities or natural persons who have associated their assets for the purpose of jointly carrying out an entrepreneurial activity under the same company based on incorporation contract concluded between them. And this partnership is considered as a legal entity. Now, how can I? It's a very simple one, actually. When several companies decide, and people decide to have a different activity that they want to invest in and want to develop, they can make this kind of partnerships. As you see, this type of incorporation is made based on contract. The contract determines specifically what kind of assets will be part of this partnership and which will be the ones to become a liability in case something goes wrong. Now, the entrepreneurial activity as well will definitely be included and provided in the contract. And generally speaking, all the parts that will be in this kind of contract, they will be responsible with those assets that they will put in as part of this partnership, not with the whole assets that they own. So this is also important. For the obligation of the company, all partners bear unlimited joint and several liability with their entire patrimony, except for the goods which, in accordance to legislation in force, are not subject to prosecution. So this again comes back to the contract. The number of associates may not be less than 2 and more than 20 natural or legal person. A natural or legal person may be the partner of only one general partnership. So again, a partnership can be developed only in a person, be a natural person or a legal one, can participate only in one because specifically of the responsibilities based on the assets. Do we have any questions? Well, generally speaking, the name speaks for itself, and it's quite clear, I suppose. Okay. Let me check the time. Okay. Limited partnership, societate încomandată. So the limited partnership, it's a commercial company which, along with the members who practice on behalf of the company this entrepreneurial activity, they bear a limited joint and several liability for its obligation. So they are limited partners. So they'll have also in as part of this partnership member financiers. So these do not participate in the entrepreneurial activity of the company, but bear within the contribution limit the risk of losses resulting from the company's activity. That would be, for example, if you have someone who believes in an idea and decides to finance an idea, and you will have also people who develop the idea. So that would be the ones that will basically finance the idea are the financier limited partners, and the ones who develop the idea, limited partners. They all together are responsible for what will result from this limited partnership. And of course, they all are interested in making sure this is a success, although the financier will participate only financially and will with those assets that he provides, contributes with, while the limited partners are responsible with their patrimony generally. Now, for the obligations of the company, the limited partners bear a limited joint and several liability. This is something that, well, I should have read probably, but I've just talked through. Okay, with the entire patrimony, except for the goods which, according to legislation in force, are not subject to prosecution. And the financier limited partners with part of their wealth, invested capital, transferred to the company in conformity with the constitution document of the society. So I suppose that I did provide quite a good description of it. So we have the financiers who provide a specific capital in order for an idea to be developed, and we have the limited partners who develop this idea that participate with their whole patrimony. And this is what they are responsible with as part of the capital of the limited partnership. Now, the limited partnership is not responsible for the obligations of the associations which are not related to this activity. So you can, when you have a limited partnership, you can have other associations as well. And the only part that is used as obligation in this case is the one that is specifically related to this activity. I suppose that you, again, this will not really be interested in this one. Now, do you remember the earlier times, the 90s in Moldova? Then at that point, you had cooperatives all over the place. A cooperative now, cooperative there, everything was a cooperative. Now, let's see exactly what a cooperative means. So the entrepreneurial cooperative, Cooperativa de Întreprinzători, that is a voluntary association. Please be mind about this. A voluntary association of natural and legal persons organized on corporate principles in order to promote and guarantee through the joint actions of its members the economic interest of other legal and other legal interests. Now, those cooperatives that you were seeing basically meant that some people and maybe some organizations decided to work together in order to develop a specific activity that would provide some profits. The members of the cooperative assume the risk for the obligation of the cooperative within the limits of their quotas. And that's something why the cooperative became so popular in this specific area. And if the patrimony of the cooperative is insufficient, they bear additional responsibility with their personal property within the limits established by the law and the statute of the cooperative. So again, when you're part of a cooperative, of an entrepreneurial cooperative, you have a quota. And this basically is what is, well, guaranteeing the proper activity. While if there are some losses and money are lost, then this is the patrimony. That means that the patrimony of the cooperative is insufficient. The additional responsibility will be already on the specific property additionally, but again, by the quota. Because if I have 50% of the cooperative and then let's say here Ioan has 25% and Ioana has other 25%, my responsibility will, in this case, will be as 50% of the needs. So if the minus, for example, is 100 lei, I will have to give 50 lei out of it. The minimum number of associates is 5 or more individuals. Members can be held by any natural or legal person from the age of 16. So during the 90s, that was a very easy way of coordinating the entrepreneurial activity, which meant selling, and everyone was receiving an exact quota of what they have invested. Also, this is something that evolved later on into the limited liability corporation, company. And that is why we have now much less cooperatives and many more limited liability companies, as being responsible with your own patrimony in case there is insufficiency in the cooperative patrimony is not really a good place to be, while the limited liability company provides you with a limited level of warranty, which is in the capital of the company. Okay, now I think we're done with the types of companies. We are here already with the registration of the company, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, no questions. So, in 2014, the government simplified the registration of the medium-sized and the small and medium-sized enterprises. Therefore, the application is to be presented to the one-stop shop of the state registration chamber. Now, all the information is available online. Subsequently, state registration body obtains the information necessary for the registration directly from public authorities through electronic networks. Also, all the information necessary for the fiscal, statistical, medical, social recording, everything is just done very fast at this one-stop shop. You have here the direct link to that. So the registration of enterprises made according to the specific law, the law on state registration of legal entities and individual entrepreneurs. The State Agency for Public Services, which is the ASP Gov MD, is now the competent body where everything is done with, and it's related to all kinds of documents, including the registration of legal entities and individual entrepreneurs, as well as any other. By the way, I think the farming households you can register at the mayoralty of the place where you live. But the rest of it, it's including, you can have at this specific one-stop shop places. As an applicant, you will have to submit a list of documents on the territorial office or online. And the registration period has been reduced, as I mentioned before, from 5 working days to 24 hours, and even an emergency one to 4 hours. Neither before the registration nor after the registration, you do not have to go to other authorities. So there is no running around with documents and collecting all kind of bureaucratic signatures and stamps and so on. This is done. Now, everything is coordinated and authorized within this State Agency for Public Services, and the registration is performed basically online. What you need to register. Now, this is information directly from the webpage. I've also put the link. So you will have the identity cards of the founders and of the administrator, where so if this is not the same person. Now, a list of variants of the company's name in Romanian, documents regarding the company's headquarters, which can be the place you live, the real estate granted by a non-funding natural person. Again, you need a specific act to confirm the property right, and the notarized decision, decizie acceptată notarial, by which the founder allows the use of this real estate for the development of the legal activity. and the property legal or the property legally rented from a legal entity. Again, you need a contract, notarized lease, or the owner's letter of guarantee. So just to mention something that it just got to me. We have not talked about the data protection, and this is something that you will have to know because, for example, in case you apply online, you need to know that, for example, the specific web page is a secure one, and your data will not be shared with anyone. So you have this personal data protected. Also, you can, in most cases, this is what people are deciding to do, is to go physically to the closer and the locally registered one-stop shop where you can just provide the documents. There, the person responsible will just copy or check again the documents that are needed, and then you'll just be informed about when you can pick up the documents or receive them by email. Okay, what is the next stage of registration? The agency checks if you have any debts to the national public budget. So it's very important for you to have everything paid. Also, it will check if you have any other previously registered enterprise in their state, maybe, so if it operates or not, if it has been liquidated or not, and anything related to them, so any debts including related to them. Also, the legal name of the entity will be checked, so that's why it's very important to have so the form of legal organization, because again, you can have different legal organization with the same name. You can use words from other languages, which are transcribed in Latin characters, as usually written in quotation marks. Now, I can give you an example. You all know the Zolushka, right? So it's a word from Russian that was written with the Latin characters, and you can see it all over the Chisinau, and not only in Chisinau. A new name must differ from the existing ones so that a clear distinction can be made between them without being examined in detail. If a new name is similar to another already registered or reserved, a statement will be added that clearly distinguishes it from others. Now, this is when I can make a parallel between, because I suppose it was quite a vocal situation when we had elections at the end of last year. There was a party that was trying to register with the same name, PAS, as the winning currently ruling party, and they were trying to make sure that they just have a proper that they were pretending that the name is not the same, it's different, because they use different words in the abbreviation. It was not accepted. So you can also think about that. I mean, you can maybe want to register the name Elon Musk. Well, why not? But I suppose it will not be allowed. Now, regarding what is forbidden when you register a name. So it coincides with the straight registration chamber finds, resembles with the name of another legal entity already registered, coincides with a trademark registered in the Republic of Moldova, or with a well-known foreign trademark, contains the name of a well-known natural person or other proper names that do not coincide with the names of the participants in the constitution of the legal person, if there is no written consent of that person, or as the case may be, of his or hers. So again, Elon Musk company, right? Haha. Contains the official or historical name of the state or of the administrative territorial unit. If there is no written agreement of the government or in case of the local public authority, contains the name of a central or local public administration authorities, or indicates directly or indirectly that the legal person belongs to these authorities, contravenes moral norms. So you see, we might want to, and we might aspire, for example, to become a company named Michael Jackson, but you will not be able to register it, as this will not be legal. There is a wording, there is a saying that it's a Russian one. Как корабль назовешь, так он и поплывет. So how you would name a boat, this is how it will flow. Well, think about it. But sometimes it's funny. It's just funny to go through all the names of the companies that currently are available. Sometimes you can have a good laugh. Okay, filling in the registration request. The application shall usually indicate the full and abbreviated name, a legal form of organization, the term of activity of the legal person, the headquarters of the legal entity, the nominal composition of the management body, the nominal composition of the supervisory body, the nominal composition of the control body, types of activity, minimum 5. You can have a peek into the classifier of activities of the economy of Moldova. This will definitely indicate you the area that you would need to put in the statute of the company, social capital, and the founder. Now, it's not too much, but when you go through all these steps, you actually understand much better what are you expecting from the company. And as it goes with our own lives, when you understand what you want to do, you can actually gently manage and develop your activity in such a way, in the company in such a way that will just reflect exactly what you need. But also, always think a little bit further than what you have. So currently you have a beginning business, but think big. Sometimes it's a good thing to have a step, to think about it as a step forward. Okay, again, the registration for legal person. You can have here the price again, just to mention, and this is specifically why I put here this information. In addition to the registration fee, you'll pay for the authentication of the deed of incorporation or the Addition Act. Then additionally 63 lei for the certification of the specimen signature in the act of the legal person. Then additionally 100 lei for payment of the elaboration, drafting, and approval of the name. You see, 440 lei for the extract from the state register. That's upon request, which currently you will not necessarily need it, so you can really not take it. 10 lei, the state tax for authentication of the deed of incorporation or the additional act, and 1 lei, the state fee for the certification of the specimen signature in the act of the legal person. Well, a little bit more. Now, the registration for natural persons. Again, you have the link, an official link of all the prices. So you have, as you see, the registration is not so big, around 64 lei for a 24 hours registration. Now, you also have a list of documents that need to be submitted. So the application for registration. There is a model, a specific model that you need to check again on the same website or webpage, and you can just fill it in. The identity card of the founder, this is a scan that you will have to provide. The document confirming the payment of the registration fee. And then you will have a verification of all these documents. The state registration of the sole proprietor is not allowed if you are a natural person who already registered, another individual entrepreneur. If the respective person is deprived by the decision of the court of the right to practice entrepreneurship, And if in the name of the person have been previously registered enterprises that do not operate or that have not been liquidated in the manner established by the law, or that have debts, of course, in the national public budget. If you need a specific license authorization. Now, we're going, how much time do I have? Do I have more time?
A bit more than half an hour until the end of the.
Okay. I hope I did not bore anyone too much yet. We're going quite fast. So, what will happen if you need a specific license or authorization? Now, this is something that depends very much on the type of activity that you actually have. And in most entrepreneurial activities that are carried out, they are usually you use the operating permits or licenses. Now, for example, in order to be a lawyer, you have to have a license to operate like that, or in any kind of cases. Now, depending on the type of activity and the field of investment, there is a specific law on the regulation by authorization of the entrepreneurial activity, and this is the law that I would invite you to check in case you need a license or authorization. There are also types of activities that need to be licensed to practice them, for example, in the legal field, as I mentioned. The types of activities subject to licensing regulation, and you have here also the number, the law. And by the way, if you put this number, the law number, blah blah blah, and so on, you will find it in Romanian and Russian version available on the webpage. I'm also giving later on a list of all the links where you can find and access the necessary legislation. Now, it should be noted that the entrepreneurial activity is authorized and licensed on the basis of the legal act that I just mentioned, and it includes authorization regulations, which designate at the same time the fees and the bodies empowered for this purpose. That's why I will not go into the more details in this field, as everything is quite specific. And if you think you need a license or an authorization, please let me know upfront, and during our mentoring session, I'll be happy to discuss this with you in more detail. Now, something that might probably also interest you is the tax mechanism in Republic of Moldova. And so you should know that there are 3 types of mandatory payments. The entrepreneur is, the moment it registered the entity, being it a physical or natural person or legal person, you are responsible for paying a lot of taxes. Not meaning like, well, the volume is also big. I have to admit it. I'm still not happy about it, but we are still liable for making sure that we are capable of paying all the necessary taxes and fees, and as well as other mandatory payments. Now, you all know that these taxes are the ones to form basically the pensions and indemnities and other specific mandatory payments that are paid to as part of the state social insurance and other medical assistance funds. So as I mentioned, there are 3 types of mandatory payments. You have them here indicated. So first of all is taxes and fees. The second one, compulsory social insurance contributions. And the third one, compulsory health insurance premiums. Now, you know very well all these 3. The taxes and fees are actually 2 types. There are general state taxes and fees and local ones. Now, the general state taxes and fees can be classified as following. So you have the income tax, TVA, the value added tax, that's the TVA, the excise duties, and other general taxes and fees. The private tax, custom duty, road taxes, you know about them already, because, for example, if you have a car, you definitely pay them, and so on. The details about the tax mechanism for enterprises in our country can be found on the webpage indicated here. Now, specifically the taxes for each type of enterprise, again, you can find it on the same webpage, and also we can discuss them in more details in our private mentoring discussion. Now, taxes, fees, and other mandatory payments may be subject to periodic changes. That's why you will have to be always up to date, and you'll have to be aware of the normative documents that regulate them. So you will be basically, the moment you have a legal or natural entity registered, you'll be just constantly entering and being updated regarding this area. You can have free support available. Now, for the territorial tax inspectorates provide support. You have free consultations from the insurance house. I have put also the hours when they work, because, well, as usually insurance tax and workers, they work specific hours, very, very strict on that. And the medical insurance house as well. Now, generally speaking, you should be aware that when you pay a salary, you have about 23% that are paid by the employer, and about 23% that are paid by the employee. This is when you have an employer. So if you are an employer, you should know that. If you're thinking about how to calculate salaries, there is an amazing webpage, which is www.salaries.md, but I will check that and tell you a little bit more, but I'm sure you know. And they calculate all the taxes. It's very useful and it's very helpful. Okay, these are the sources. So Lex Justice, Legis, Business Portal, Observatorio. So the first two are the ones that will provide you the updated versions of the current legislation in force, which is very important. The list of the legislation we already have in the beginning. And the Business Portal and Observatorio.md, both of them, they'll provide you additional news related to taxes, to registration, to any kind of specific activities for entrepreneurs. They are quite good and operative. Now, just to mention that in case, and I hope there is cooperation also with ODIM, which could be of help in case you have you need a little bit support for young people, women in business, and so on. So again, they also provide additional support as well as Civita. And I think this is it for this presentation. Now, tell me, I will just stop the sharing. And I'll really be happy to see more of you, because we have a half an hour, and after that we'll make probably a 4 or 5 minutes break. And after that we'll speak about contracts. Now, I really wondering if you have any questions. I know it's boring. I know that probably, well, contracts and enterprises, types of enterprises, just ask anything you would like to, and I'll be happy to see your faces as well, in case you are willing to show them, as I am. If you'll be, I will show you my cat, if you will be nice and ask questions. Okay, I can see Ala is with her baby there. All right. Thank you. All right, then, let's have a small break, 5 minutes break, which means we'll get back at 4:37, I suppose 4:38, and I'll be ready to start with the contracts discussion. All right. Okay, then. Making a break. Here is, I don't know if you remember, because some of you might remember my little cat that was like almost as big as one finger. Now here he is, my supporting animal. All right then, everyone is ready? Shall we go through the next one? It will be a fast discussion, and I will take this little guy out because otherwise I will not be able to work and to present you properly the contracts. Okay, I'll share now the screen. Again, if you have any questions, start straight away because we don't have too much time. I'll be available for questions even after the time. So just let me know if I can be of any kind of help. All right then. Here we are. So this is the second part. So legal surfing for a beginner entrepreneur, but know your contracts. Now, we will have to understand specifically the definition of a contract. This is a legally binding agreement. And basically this tells you everything. A document that legally makes the parts of it, put them together in a specific type of relationship of responsibilities and respecting rights and duties among them. Now, a contract is legally enforceable when it meets the requirements of the applicable law. A contract typically involves exchange of goods, services, money, or a promise of any of those. In the event of a breach of contract, the injured part may seek judicial remedies such as damages or cancellation. Now, an agreement between two private parties that create mutual legal obligation. That would be another simple definition of a contract. It can be oral or written. And you should know already that currently as written is considered as well the agreement that you have in an electronic format. You can work on oral contracts as well. But again, you will need definitely to have a proof of this specific agreement. And but generally speaking, it also is a contract. It's a longer story about the oral ones, but we'll speak more about the written ones. And I will actually urge you to use as much contracts in written form and anything in written form as possible, because this makes sure that your rights and your rights are respected, and you have a proper form of protecting yourself, your company, as well as your goods against any type of breach. Some contracts must be written in order to be valid. This is something that I intended to say as well, such as contracts that involve a significant amount of money. Now, when you all know, and we all had the experience, when you had an agreement with someone, you lended some money and then you don't see it back. It's good when it's about a, well, insignificant sum, but sometimes the sums are quite important. And you know already that there are also cases that even a contract, if it's not properly developed, might lead the person that has lended money without receiving them back. But let's go further on. So again, I'll just underline, it's very important to know and to understand the definitions. When you apply anything in a legal format, you need to make sure you use the proper definition in order to have the proper result. Okay. This is a simple visual example of a contract. So you have an offeror who shows intent to enter into a contract, makes a definite order, communicates the offer to the offeree, and it sounds like, I'll pay you $50 an hour to edit my book on Mesoamerican sewing techniques. Now, the offeree shows intent to accept the offer, communicates the intent to accept the proper means, states acceptance that mirrors the terms of the offer. I'll take the editing job. So that is an oral contract, but if it has a written format, which you have in the middle, that's the perfect one. Well, not generally speaking, but if you have a written contract, that's best. So what are the conditions of a contract? Let me check again. We have 15 minutes, but I'll go very fast because I want to show you the template of a contract, and we could work through this a little bit more easy in order for you to understand exactly how things are going. So we have in every contract, we have an offer. You have a contract that is legally enforceable. So if one party fails to do something that is promised, it is considered that the contract is breached. And then if it's enforced, then you'll have all the means necessary to counteract and not receive compensation or get your anything back that you would need to get back. Now you have, as I mentioned, you need an offer and you have an offeree. These are the parts of a contract. It does not necessarily need to be one single person being legally or natural. You can be there, a contract can be between several parts, legal or natural. Now you have the agreement, and when a mutual agreement is reached, it means that the conditions that are stated in a contract and all the parties agree to it. So there is an offer and there is an acceptance, and you have this is called an agreement. Then you have the consideration, which is the promise properly. So each promise must be made in return for the performance of a legally sufficient act of promise. That's a very legal, very, very legal wording, but let me put it a little bit differently. You would have a simple exchange. For example, if I make the translation for you, you will pay me $50, or other way around. So if you make the translation for my book, I'll pay you $50. You saw that image. That is the consideration. Now, contractual capacity. Both parties must possess fully legal capacity to assume a contractual duties. So, for example, if a person is under the age, it will not be able to sign a contract. You have to be 16, 18 plus. Otherwise, you have to be also in your proper mind. So if you're crazy, that's a very bad word to put it. But if you have a document stating that you're not in your capacity, legal capacity, where there is someone else who has the legal capacity to take decisions instead of you, it means that you do not have the contractual capacity. Same goes for the companies that, for example, are in process of dissolving or are in incapacity. So again, these companies as well do not have contractual capacity. And also you need a lawful object. The purpose of the contract must be legal. For example, if you have a contract where you hire someone to kill someone, that's illegal. So a contract to commit an unlawful act or to violate public policy is void, so it cannot be applied. A contract where you ask someone to rob, for example, a bank, it's not a valid contract. Okay. What are the elements for a contract? So there are 5 specific elements that are required for any kind of contract. Now, just to make sure that you know that you would need to have a legal purpose, as it was mentioned. Also, you will need the expiration period, the acceptance itself. But it will, I think I'll go a little bit differently because somehow I had the feeling that I can speak. Let me check a little bit differently. Parts of the contract. You will have access to this presentation, and you can access all the links that you will find here. But I would like firstly to show you the last slide, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the practical contract preparation exercise and questions. We have 10 minutes, and basically what you have here is a general description of a contract. Let me put it this way. All right, so I will talk to you about the structure, and also I will ask Mari to share with you a list of the documents as well as 2 templates of contracts that you might use. But again, a contract, first of all, when you start a contract, you indicate who are the parts. And there is someone, so the offeree and offerer. The second point, and this is Q1, so who enters a contractual relation. These are the parts, offerer and offeree. The second part of the contract is what is the object of the contract. So the second point, you will describe exactly what is the type of activity. So is it a sales? You can find, by the way, the one of the templates in the chat already. Mari has shared it with you. And also a service agreement template and a consulting agreement. So you can check them, you can see, and we can discuss more. But again, so the second part would be the object of the contract. What exactly is this about? For example, in the case of the image that I presented earlier, we have the translation or the editing of a book, right? So the offer needs the expertise of a person who will edit the book for the specific price. That's the object of the contract. What are the conditions? Now, the conditions in that specific image were not described. The conditions, for example, in this specific case, will be performing the work, performing the editing of the whole book. That's very important to mention. What parts of the book need to be edited? That's one thing. Secondly, what methods should be used, what language, for example, if it's translation, what specific editing tools should be used, and what is the final results that needs to be obtained. So this would be the conditions. Next one would be the price. In the contract, always state the price. Now, this is something that you will also definitely see when you have an employer-employee contract. You need to provide a proper price, and the price is the one that you will consider appropriate, and this is the base of the agreement that you will have with the offeree or the offerer, depending on which part of the contract you are. Now, it is your decision how you place the price. But for example, in case of employees, for example, it's recommended by the law to have the net amount that you will be providing to the employee, because the taxes are calculated separately. At the same time, you can also indicate the brute number. That's also something that is applicable, but you need to take into consideration a series of other aspects. When it's about a service contract or consultant, you need to state what will happen and who's paying taxes. Sometimes and often in the European law, for example, in EU, generally speaking, you have a proper price and the taxes are paid separately, which indicates that, again, the amount paid is net. So the person who signs the contract is aware of how much money she or he will get for the specific services provided. Now, also, the fifth point, the temporal terms. It's important to indicate when the contract starts, because very often you will see that the contract starts at the moment of signature, but the signature can be placed by one party in one day, the second party the second day. When both parts sign the contract, you can decide again in the contract when this contract starts. you can have a phrase, for example, the contract starts 10 days from the signature of the contract, or you can have the contract starts the moment both parties are placing their signature. It means that the second person who will sign the contract and will put the date, that will be the date when the contract starts being active. And also the ending. I will give you an example. In one of the contracts that while I was a director in the Civita Moldova, I had an expert hired within a project. And we had a very specific contract with very specific terms, but the person did not fulfill properly her duties. In this case, I have terminated the contract before time. And that gave me, because this was mentioned in the temporal terms, specifically in the contract. So I have there a proper indication of the fact that if the contract is breached in some way, the contract is terminated in 5 days after informing about this the other part. You see? I suppose it's very possible you'll have more questions about contracts. Every time when you think about something, it depends very much on which part are you. But don't forget that everything is an agreement. So if you write something that is valid only for you and the other part will not agree, they might not sign the contract. So that's why a contract basically means that you agree on all those terms that are stated in this document. You'll have miscellaneous aspects. What is that? Miscellaneous, general aspects regarding, for example, the force majeure. In case, as it was, for example, in 2020, the pandemics made everyone stay somewhere far and it was not possible to fly anyway. So those people that were supposed to fly somewhere to provide some services were not able to do so. And they might have lost their money. But if the contract has this force majeure application, it means that both parties are covered from this loss, and they can actually find a proper agreement. So depending again on the conditions, each party is safe because there is this clause on force majeure. Although I have to admit that general conditions for contracts are provided by the civil code as well, and the administrative code. So this is something that you just need to know and understand. What other miscellaneous aspects you have? General type, like what is the procedure, what law is applied in case there is any kind of problems. And for example, this is valid for contracts that are made between parties that are not in the same country. And then you can, for example, discuss on having everything under the law of Moldova or anything under the law of Estonia, for example, as I have my contract now with Civita. So it depends very much how things are going. General aspect that will help you in case something happens to cover and to be sure that you have already everything set just to finalize and to get a very fast and proper finalization of this agreement. Now, warranties. What would mean that? You'll find very often in contracts something similar or indicative, like in case the payment is not made by the date indicated, the other part is responsible of paying 1% of the sum every day until, let's say, some date there stated, or a maximum amount of something like that. This is a warranty. So it means that if, for example, you are not paid in time, or you do not pay in time, the other party will be compensated for that. Or in case the activities is not performed to the highest, the evaluation establishes that you missed something, then you will not be paid the full sum, but you will be paid a smaller one. So these conditions are part of the warranties, and this is something that you need again to discuss and negotiate with the other part. And of course, the signature of the parties with all the data necessary for that. Now, let me know, do you have any questions at this point? Anyone? Well, as I was sure that the legal aspects are probably not the funniest part, but believe me, when you know how to make a contract or how to read one, you'll be a lead in everything that you're doing, because you can actually ensure the fact that any kind of agreement you have is the one respected, and actually it protects you from anything, as well as anyone else who will sign a contract with you. They will be happy to have this kind of support, because they will know that the contracts made makes them as well in a good position. So it's a very good start. I suppose if you still don't have any questions, I tried to run through all this quite fast. You have this 2 templates. They are both strictly formed, and you can use them as much as possible, as much as needed, and adapt them. I definitely suppose that was too much information, legal information, too many words, too many notions, new notions, and that might be confusing. But you can have a series of questions. Please, you can use the same address that I have with Civita. It's still valid. You can send me the questions, and let's establish the meetings, the private meetings together. How about that? If you don't have any questions, maybe we can have the discussion about when we have the private meetings then, because I suppose this is something that where we could also discuss in more details the contracts and what kind of contracts you would need, what are the aspects that you would need probably to take into consideration, and maybe I can support you with developing those. Let's start with the Turno Montessori. You're the number one. Hi.
Hi, hello. I have mixed feelings right now because too much information, but for me, I established some schemas, what are my next steps. And for sure, I have some questions regarding to contracts, because at the moment I'm the one, and me and my partner, and it will be or individual enterprise or CRL. But oh, sorry, my kid is
no problem.
up. Am I? Is it obligatory to have in my company an accountant or a lawyer, or I can ask for some help, some agencies that provided such of services?
I would actually recommend for you to have a company who provides accounting services. You do not need a legal person to have there. You don't need a lawyer. You would need a lawyer if you have any specific additional support. At this point, I am happy to be your personal lawyer and support you with anything necessary, as this is not rocket science. It's just I know the notions, and I surf through this a little bit. So I'll be happy to provide you with this support with regard to contracts and any questions at this point. But regarding the accounting, definitely get to a company, because the turnover of a smaller company, usually it will not get you more than about 200, 250 lei per month for their services. And they will cover everything, including taxes and any kind of support and any kind of documentation that you need to cover.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell me when would you think would be easier for you to have the appointed?
How much time, and it will be online or offline?
I think it will be online. We're still unfortunately in the red area, so it will be better to have it online.
Okay, at 4 o'clock.
Next week, which day?
Which day? Let's make Friday.
Friday, okay. Friday, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Would you be able to, actually, in this case, I'll probably ask someone from the team to establish the dates in the calendar. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Who's next? In my list here, we have Diana. Diana, would you be able to speak now?
Yes, I will. I am. This is an interesting topic for me, namely contracts, because I have already worked with contracts and with clients,
Right.
but I'm not sure if I'm doing the right job because the contract was elaborated by myself, inspired by the information from the internet and what I thought it's important for my area of expertise. But still, I think because I'm providing let's say intellectual property services. Yes, so I think this is very important for me to have a well-written contract and which will serve my interest, let's say like this, in case of some disputes. Yes, right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so for me, maybe Tuesday at 5 p.m. if it's not too late.
No, it's not too late.
No?
It's actually perfect. Yes, 5 p.m. Okay. I'm making this notes as well in my calendar.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the presentation and for your help.
Happy to be here, honestly. All right then. Okay, so it's okay. Who's next? Alla Georgica?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So when do you think we can have our meeting?
What about your availability this year? Oh my God, this week or next week when it's better?
I think it would be better. Today is Tuesday. We might have it also for tomorrow, but I'd prefer to have it next week, or we have 2 weeks until the 14th of October.
Okay, so next week will be for us it will be more suitable as well.
Okay, which day and what time would you prefer? I'll adapt.
Well, can we get back to you, because I should ask Anna. She now is maybe she has a busier schedule than me.
All
so
right.
yes, I will check with her and we'll get back to you. Is it okay?
I might suggest to have it on Wednesday or Friday. I prefer Thursday. It's a little bit crowded.
Okay, so then Wednesday or Friday?
Yes, or already the next week. But I suppose so. You just choose the hour and let me as well as my team know. Well, Civita team know.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, we'll get back to you.
Great. Who's next?
Hi.
Hi, Zarida.
Hi, Daniela. Thank you for today. I don't know if you noticed, but Yulia isn't here today, so I'll need to discuss with Yulia what her availability is. But I have a feeling it's going to be in the week of the 11th.
Okay.
At some stage, and then I'll just liaise with Yulia to find out what time suits her. And also, do you have any preference for the week of the 11th?
As a matter of fact, no. I'm just a little bit taken on Thursday, the first half. Well, I'd prefer the whole Thursday. I'm into a series of medical aspects, so that's not my best day.
No problem. So what about if we suggest either the 13th or the 15th?
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say that the indication was to have it everything until 14th, including.
Okay, I'll see what the availability is then towards the beginning of that week and get back to you.
Great. It would be my pleasure. Say hi to Yulia as well.
I will. Thank you.
All right. And one more team. Who's
Do we have anybody from the toy exchange present at this training or not If not, then we just agree.
Not have she expects a child, so she warned us that she might not be able to join us today. But I'll put you in contact with her so you can agree on the date and time.
Sure. Just let me know. Ekaterina, I'll be happy if you could, let me, because my access to the email is a little bit limited sometimes, but I know that you can write me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Okay, ladies and gents, the legal surfing seemed quite overwhelming, I suppose, but I really hope you got at least a general understanding of what is expected from you by the state and what will be the most useful for you to know as well. If you have any additional questions, also please write them to me. We can, well, this presentation was made based on your specific requirements, and I am actually available for specific legal questions as well and support to your request. So it depends on you, what are we discussing about, and well, I'll try to prepare myself prior to that. So if you would provide me with specific questions, I'll be able to provide you with more information and more support. Looking forward for the groups to contact me and let me know when they're available. And well, we'll keep in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Daniela, for supporting
Thank
us here today.
Thank you
thank
very
you all the
much.
teams who took all this information in. So have a lovely end of the week, and we will all keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.